Hi, Instagram fam. I've got a live interview today with filmmaker David Serero, whose film The United States of Elie Tahari was nominated for Best Documentary at the inaugural FashFilmFete. The documentary about the iconic designer shares a story and life of how Tahari rose from poverty to be one of the most well-known fashion designers in the world. So let's get started.
Hello, my
Hello.
dear.
Hi, David. I'm so
How are
excited.
you?
I am doing great, and I'm so excited to finally be on with you. I know we've done some little back and forth.
I know. But the time when we had the interview, I mixed up the Eastern time, and I thought you were on the East Coast. Anyway, my whole apologies. So
No,
thank you
no
to you, my
apologies.
dear.
No apologies necessary. I'm just so fortunate to be able to have this opportunity to sit with you and discuss the United States of Elie Tahari. I'm so excited about this film. It was actually nominated for Best Documentary at the inaugural FashFilmFete Awards. So let's get started with this interview so the fam can learn a little bit about you. So share a little bit about your background as a filmmaker.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to tell you how much I admire you and how much I appreciate you for building this film festival from literally nothing and bringing it where it is today. A very important fashion film festivals or a film festival dedicated to fashion in Phoenix and to bring it to such a beautiful venue, the Museum of Art. You know, I remember when I said that to Elie Tahari had like a sparkle in his eyes. So,
Yes, Phoenix
so
Art Museum. Yes, yes. Elie Tahari is just like an amazing designer, and so many of the people who frequent that museum were so excited about the film.
absolutely. Well, that's so sweet of you. And same for me either. You know, when I said I was selected to your film festival, I was jumping all around the place. You know, the neighbors they thought I was being attacked because I was screaming, yeah, yeah. So
I
no,
love it.
from the bottom of my heart, really, thank you so much. So about my background, so I'm originally an opera singer. I direct and produce shows. So I would say I'm more a stage guy because I directed and produced over 100 theatrical productions from opera, musicals, plays, concert, festivals, you name it. And I directed stuff for screen, but it was, you know, music videos, so not something really at a very, very high level. And then I knew that sooner or later I will go into movies. So I thought originally what I would do would be to direct plays for the screen. You know, that would be a good way for me to start because there's such a jungle, you know, so many movies and content every day. I'm like, how can I be different? And then COVID happened, and I started to have this amazing partnership with several platforms. And then they were like, David, if you have more content, we'll take it because we know what you do. And I was like, well, what can I do now? Because I cannot hire actors because it was the COVID and for safety it was
Right.
too complicated. So I was like, maybe a documentary. And I thought documentary, you just interview one guy and you put archives, you know, there and there, you know. But it turned out that it's 100 times more difficult than filming a movie because if you want something to be said in the story, you just write it and the actor says it, you know. But in
Yes.
the documentary, you cannot force people to say what they're going to say, and they're not professional for the camera. So not everybody is comfy to talk in front of a camera and talking about themselves on top of that. So that's really how that started. That movie really was a big blessing because I have now 6 films in production and post production as we're speaking,
Oh,
following this
great.
success. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. And they will come for you. There is one about fashion actually coming. It's about the Oriental, but in America, Oriental means Asian, but in Europe,
Yes.
Oriental is more Middle Eastern, you know, from the
Yes.
Orient, you know. So more the Middle Eastern fashion and how this fashion is brought to the haute couture of Paris. And now it's at the same level, so it's really really fascinating and showing great designers from Morocco, from Saudi Arabia, and such beautiful fashion worn by models, Occidental models, you know.
Oh,
So
wow. Kind of like an East meets West.
oh my God, I'm gonna take that tagline from you. I never thought
Well,
about
take it, take it. So when is
that.
this film coming out?
Well, to be honest with you, I have to wait a little bit almost every different fashion week because I have to catch from there and there. So now I started the editing of that movie because I have enough material. I filmed two fashion weeks of that. So I have enough material, I have enough archives. So I kind of have the movie in my head and I started the editing. But you know, it's always like that when I do the editing is I have, let's say, oh, I can do an hour film easily, even a 2 hour film, and I end up having 5 minutes that I consider good, you know.
Right.
So probably I'm going to need more material to shoot, and it's also what can come out. And all these people from, you know, Middle East, they're not really people who they are very humble. You know, they're not into marketing. They're not into what are our sales this month. You know, so it's hard also for them to get some juice from the orange. We say, you know.
Okay.
But you will have the premiere. You will have the
Okay.
premiere.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So tell me, what inspired you to do this documentary? You're in the mindset of, okay, we're in the middle of COVID. I need to do a documentary. What inspired you to use Elie Tahari as your subject?
Well, so fate had it that I met Elie a couple of months before because, not to sound like a competitor, but I'm the producer of a Jewish Sephardic film festival in New York.
Okay.
Actually, the New York Jewish Sephardic Film Festival. And so
Competition is
every
a good
year,
thing.
so every year, but you know, nobody cares about the movie. They care about the food that they eat after, you know.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So we started to award filmmakers of a Sephardic background, but we kind of went around the clock a little bit and we're like, okay, maybe we need to open it to other people. And then the name of Elie Tahari came up, and it turns out that just almost at the same time, I was producing a musical off Broadway about disco music. And one girl I hired, which actually we see in the movie, the girl who is doing roller skating, Lena Davis, she knew Elie Tahari from Studio 54 back then. And she told me, you know, you should talk to him because he loves disco music. And the show is all about disco. It was called Lost in the Disco with Lisa Azuelos, was doing a big filmmaker. And I'm doing a documentary also about her, by the way. And so I reached out to him and I said, look, I would like to give you this award and do a big reception about you, for you, in your honor. It was like, oh, that's so sweet. So he usually never likes to do that kind of thing, but he was so gracious to me. So we did that. And after I was like, you know, I passionate about your story. I think you should write your memoir. You know, you should write your story. And then COVID happened, and then I reached out to him and I said, look, you know, I want to start to do a movie, a documentary, and I would love to do it about you. And he said, I have nothing but time, you know. So it was also a
Well,
perfect timing
perfect
also
time.
for him. Oh yeah, because you cannot sit with him for like more than 10 minutes. You know, all the assistants are coming and say, okay, it's time to wrap up, you know. So I had like a whole day with him, and then we were able to go to his warehouse where he works, and also even in Central Park to go around in Times Square and all of that. So, you know, that wouldn't have been possible if he wouldn't also be quote unquote out of work, you know, which of course
Right.
he was never out of work, but there was all that slowing down in terms of the work routine. So, and as I went on and prepared the interview and prepared all of that, I found such great material and such so many, I would say, avenues to tell his story. So, as a refugee, the Jewish story, but also the American story, and
Yeah.
also how he revolutionized also many things in the American fashion. Yeah, so it started with that, and after I was able to interview Nicole Miller, to interview Denis Basso, so many great talents to bring into the movie. So I was very blessed. And also because, again, I had time and it was COVID, I was able to learn how to edit movies myself,
Okay.
which of course I knew before, but at a very small level. So I learned really how to edit movies, and I was able to test the movie. So I brought some friends at home and I showed them the movie and I asked them, tell me what you think. I started first with the trailer. So they said, but wait, I don't understand when he said that. How come, So I was able to test it out exactly the way I do when I do my shows. I test it first in front of an audience, and then after I open the show, like the previews kind of way.
So I love it. So David, so tell me, did you meet any challenges while trying to make this? I know you said you did it during COVID, so I imagine there were some issues there. Share some of the challenges that you had trying to make the film.
Al, it's a very good question, man. Well, COVID, to be honest with you, didn't really stop me from doing the movie. It was actually a good thing, with all due respect, of course, to people who were suffering from it. But people had more time on my end around me, so it was not bad. The biggest challenge for me was how to put 40 years of fashion and this time capsule that he has from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and how to bring it to an hour documentary and how to tell his story, but to make it entertaining, to make it educative, and to make it also inspiring with someone who doesn't have English as his first language, as I am. So it was also very important because he had great punchline, So this is why I wrote at some point the lines, because I really wanted people to print them. And after, I always followed my instincts, So many times I had, by example, an editor who told me, no, you cannot talk to the audience while, during the movie, you cannot write stuff dedicated to the audience, And I'm like, well, why not? And then I saw, because the movie was played in film festivals, in movie theaters, so I was able also to go to these screenings and record to film the screening, So after I could analyze where people are laughing, where people are uploading, so that I would leave more space for the laugh to continue. So I don't put something very important, so otherwise people will stop laughing to listen, So this kind of stuff, I let them breathe. And it was also interesting when, when you would show stuff and the audience will be like, oh, wow, look at this, look at that. And I was able also to get some archives, which was very difficult because Elie never kept any video or archive. So it was one of the big challenge there also.
So while you were working with Mr. Tahari, was there anything new, unknown before, that you discovered about him that would really impress you?
Oh, yeah. Well, he works the old way. So there are many things, but he works the old way, which means he will open the newspaper and he will see that this guy had an idea about that, or this guy changed this or changed that. He would take his phone and call and say, let's meet, let's talk, He's not going to send an email, but he will call the person, and I really love that, and I do that now more often than now sending even emails. But also, he never, everything that happened to him when he was homeless and sleeping in the bench in Central Park, he was doing camping. He felt like, I'm in New York. I mean, it's amazing.
So the glass is half full instead of half empty. So a really optimistic, positive attitude. And you see that design.
Yeah.
You see that optimism in his designs.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're saying that. Well, yeah, because he's Persian. His family is from Iran. So he had a good sense of the colors, So he was able to really put a very strong blue, a strong red, these colors. This is why after, when I did the movie, I worked a lot on the coloring of the movie itself, to showcase really all these colors and these details. and how they move through the time. And really, his clothing lasts forever. Like we've seen at screening all the women that were wearing Tahari in his honor.
Yeah.
And some of them had stuff like, oh, I bought these 30, 40 years ago, and it's still
Classic.
up to date. That's the good thing really about it, you know.
And I love that name, the United States of Elie Tahari. To tell you the truth, the poster almost looked like a campaign poster. I loved it. So how did you?
I love you saying that.
How did you come up with the name, the United States of Elie Tahari? Loved it.
Well, I've always been very good to find stuff catchy, you know, to find stuff that really make it work. Like, by example, I did Romeo and Juliet in New York in off-Broadway production, where it was two Jewish family, you know. So one Ashkenazi, one Sephardic. So the way I wrote Juliet, I wrote it G-E-W-L-I-E-T, like Juliet. You know what I mean?
Okay, yes.
So
A
people
play-off.
got that. So
I
I've
love
always
it.
been good for that, to find the, by example, the next movie I'm doing, which is about a very big filmmaker called Lisa as well. She did like LOL with Miley Cyrus and Demi Moore, but she's very popular in France. She did huge successes. So I did a movie about her, and I called the movie because she loved to show, she broke really her industry by bringing narrative and stories about women, especially Sephardic Jewish women, but all kind of women. And so I called her The Film Make Her, H-E-R, you know, The Film Make Her.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Filmmaker. I
Her,
love it.
exactly.
I love
so
the
these
in the play on words.
Yeah, yeah. And the United States, I like, because every person is the result of an equation. You know, you had this in your life, you have this, you have this. So this, whether it's good or bad, that's one thing that I learned with Elie, is that God never sends you something bad. He sends you the good things, he sends you the bad things. But he always sends you something, something bad to make you, I would say, learn from it, so you can face later something bigger, you know. So you know, and for me, a big thing for Elie was really America. You know, you know, would he, you know, have been as successful if he would have been in another country? I don't know, because there was something at that time, at that era in America, still today, of course, but in those days it was very, very different. Like, people were really, there was no social media, there was no emails of everything. People had to really knock on the door, you know, and come with their big smiles and rehearse their speech in English because they were not sure which word to use. So I believe this was a very, very strong component of the equation that brings us to Elie Tahari. So that's why I call it the United States of Elie Tahari. And we talk a lot in the movie about the American dream, and you know that you have. I wanted also to pay a tribute to all this generation, which I belong also modestly, this generation of immigrants who came to America, who created jobs, who helped their fellow Americans, born native-born Americans,
who became literally a fabric of America, right?
Oh, absolutely, part of the culture. And I mean, when I look at Elie, I mean, he created, but it's thousands and thousands of jobs and paid dozens and dozens of millions of dollars of taxes. So it's so important. And through him works so many different, I would say, work and jobs, like the lady who will sew the dress, to the woman in the marketing section, to the guy who will do the delivery, to, you know, so many different jobs. So I called it the United States of Elie Tahari, and at the end, that phrase, when I was with him, I looked at him and said, "Can you imagine that a small guy like myself gets to interview you?" Right. And after I said, then after the phrase came that But what is so, but you said that's America. That's
Right.
America. That a guy like you can come to America and become Elie Tahari, which is the phrase I put,
And that is
at the end.
so that is so true, David. One of the things that really caught me with that title was that after watching the film, you knew his history, you knew where he came from, you knew where he came from geographically, you knew where he came from, poverty, but he truly was American in every sense of the word. And I think hearing that title just really let it sink in how we all make up this great nation.
And
Really,
and also in terms of keywords, it was not bad, because when people were Googling United
United
States
States
fashion designer, my movie was coming in,
was up top. Brilliant. So tell us, where can people watch the film now?
Well, now it's available on Vimeo on demand.
Okay, awesome.
Vimeo on demand. It's available there, and it's in the process of adding now the subtitles and closed captioning for more screenings. It's so interesting, Mignon, because originally the movie was supposed to be done. I started to film July 2020, and the movie was done June 2021. So it took me about a year. And then in July, I was like, okay, it's going to be delivered to one platform in particular. But as I was posting some behind the scenes on Facebook and all of that, some festivals reach out and say, oh, before it goes to the platform, can we screen it? I said, sure. And like this, it went to so many film festivals and 2 movie theaters. We had an opening at Lincoln Center in New York. A big screening, sold out, standing ovation at the end. Was really a dream come true for me. And actually we laughed a lot with Elie about that. But after, now there is for the Fashion Week of Paris in October 2022, there will be one screening of the movie in Paris. So I cannot put it on any platforms besides Vimeo for now, but later it will be on Apple TV and all of that. But maybe in at least 6 months, if not a year.
So tell me, David, a couple more questions for you.
Of course.
What made you choose FashFilmFete? I know you mentioned it and you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but what made you essentially choose, there's so many festivals out there, choose FashFilmFete to showcase the United States of Elie Tahari?
Well, first of all, you can tell that from the visual that it is going to be a very, very good and well-produced film festival. So really kudos to you.
Thank you.
And the second thing, I really love the title, and I've been to Phoenix, and I know that people love his clothing. And also I was like, let me send it to as many film festivals as I can, but dedicated to the fashion world. Because one thing also that I wanted to show in this movie, and that I learned more than ever in this movie, is that behind each piece of clothing, there is always a story, which needs to be told. And that's film festivals like yours, who are really helping to tell that story. So he won a couple of awards in not a couple, but several awards. But yours, I thought it was really, really beautiful. And Elie Tahari is national treasure. So the fact you did your film festival in the museum, I was like, that's perfect. And I remember being in the car with him and getting the notification that I was selected in your festival. I was like, Elie, can you believe we got this? Oh, that's great. We have to go there.
So yes. So you mentioned some future projects, David. What are you working on right now? Like, is there something you're working on right now? Like, when we get off this call, you're going to be
right now, I'm going to open the champagne to celebrate our friendship for life.
Oh, I love it. Because I am going to be reaching out to you offline, because I have some more questions for you and some possible.
My dear, as many as you want.
Okay.
I can do that all day with you. So anytime. No, so now I'm finishing a cast album recording of a big musical I did off Broadway called The Ten Commandments. So it's the world premiere in English language. It was the biggest musical ever in France. So I recorded everything. I'm doing the mixing. It takes forever because there's so many voices and parts, and it's a big cast. So I'm finishing that. I released the teaser of one new movie about a French artist called Richard Orlinski, who does, the big animals in sculpture. Is very, very popular in France. And I released the trailer. You can see it on my Instagram page. That would be a great movie also. And so I have this movie. I have one about Lisa Azuelos, the filmmaker, that I'm doing now, the editing. I just finished the trailer, which you really like, but there are more and more people that I need to add in the trailer who are now like, oh, I would love to be part of it after all. And so there is this. There is a movie about another filmmaker called Elie, who's really the old French school. So I have interviewed all the old school actors, like the really big stars. And yeah, I have one about the Oriental, the Middle Eastern fashion. And I have one about one of the greatest pianists of all time, Hélène Grimaud, a big, 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 big star in the classical world. I'm doing movies really about people who started from nothing and who built prodigies, but also who kind of changed their industry, who brought their own voice in this industry,
So truly made impact.
Yeah. By example, Hélène Grimaud, she was one of the first female pianists to go on TV shows, a variety show, and talk about classical music as if she had an album of pop rock, And she, as a French artist, she didn't play just French repertoire, but she played many stuff. So she's very, very interesting. And as always, I put my recipe where I really want people to live with something. It's not just a good movie or a movie well made. I want to do a movie that people enjoy, that people leave and they applaud. And I put some videos on my YouTube, but we had standing ovations almost on every screening. So that was really, really something particular. So these are my projects. And in the middle of all of that, in the summer, I'm going to do a road trip. I'm going to go all across Europe and do a movie about it. And I have some other recordings. So, working nonstop, as always.
So, David, it has been so great to interview you. I appreciate all this knowledge that you shared with us here today. And I am working on getting an interview we did offline as well onto the website, so that should be coming out this week. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I appreciate you and Elie Tahari. That was an amazing documentary, and so thankful that you submitted to FashFilmFete.
Oh, thank you, my dear, and thank you to you for building that opportunity for filmmaker, for the fashion world. And for the people of Phoenix, I hope they really appreciate all you're doing, but I've seen nothing but great things. So thank you to you for that great opportunity. And listen, I'm yours forever. So whatever you need from me, I'm yours. Never put a question mark around my name. Always, it's a yes.
Okay, thank you, David. Have a good rest of your
Thank you, my dear.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, my dear. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.